Welcome to our news channel. Our news bulletin today features the latest breaking news with the following details.
If you compare the two beasts, the American M1 Abrams and the Russian T-90 tanks, who would you choose? Prepare to be stunned by the truth about these two monsters of the battlefield. The Russian Ministry of Defense announced on March the 6th that an American-supplied M1 Abrams tank in Ukraine was taken out by a Russian T-72B3 tank crew with a single shot. This marks the third Abrams destroyed by Russian forces in just a few weeks. According to Russian military expert Alexander Bartosh, several key factors, including the skill and reconnaissance of the crew, contributed to the T-72B3's success in taking down the American supertank in its first engagement, as reported by Sputnik. Bartosh emphasized that Russian military engineers have long studied the vulnerabilities of the Abrams and devised strategies for where and how to strike with the T-72B3. The key is to target the area between the turret and the hull of the Abrams, causing significant damage that is difficult to repair, rendering the tank inoperable on the battlefield, Bartosh explained. The expert also highlighted the advanced features of the T-72B3, which is equipped with powerful weaponry and special systems that make it capable of destroying the Abrams. When asked whether the destruction of the third Abrams would impact the West's efforts to send more armored vehicles to Ukraine, Bartosh suggested that the resolve of Western nations might be wavering. Russian industry demonstrates superiority in both tanks and aircraft compared to the Western-supplied equipment in Ukraine, Bartosh added. Notably, the first two Abrams tanks were destroyed by Russian forces using suicide drones, which have been widely employed in the conflict in Ukraine. The T-72B weighs 44.5 tons, measures 6.95 meters in length, and stands over 2.2 meters tall, with a crew of 3. It is a variant of the legendary T-72 tank, a main battle tank that once dominated Soviet military forces. Russia has continued to upgrade the T-72B into various versions, including the T-72B3 and the T-90, which remain in use today. The T-72B3 variant is said to possess power almost on par with the T-90, thanks to its reactive armor, advanced fire control system, and turbocharged diesel engine. Meanwhile, in October 2023, the United States confirmed the delivery of 31 Abrams tanks to the Ukrainian military to bolster its ground forces. By February the 25th, Abrams tanks were first recorded on the Ukrainian front lines. However, these armored vehicles have so far fallen short of expectations in the Ukrainian theater due to their vulnerability and exploited weaknesses. Despite being considered one of the best tanks in the world, the Abrams tanks sent to Ukraine lack the modern armor that equips U.S. military versions, making them more susceptible to damage. Gustav Gressel, a military expert at the European Council on Foreign Relations based in Germany, pointed out that the continuous evolution of drones in the conflict significantly changes the threats faced by Abrams tanks. As drones become more advanced, the traditional armor of the Abrams may not suffice against precision attacks, increasing the likelihood of these super tanks being destroyed. Why are M1 Abrams tanks easily shot down in Ukraine? After the first M1 Abrams main battle tank, MBT, of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, was destroyed in Avdiivka, the national interest and many military experts noted that the American MBT is overrated and possesses too many vulnerabilities in a harsh battlefield like Ukraine. The M1 Abrams tank might be overrated, similar to the British Challenger 2 and German Leopard 2 tanks, the national interest stated. Unavoidable weaknesses. Russian Military Science Academy weapons expert Vladimir Prokhotilov assessed that the U.S. did not send the most modern version of the M1 Abrams to Ukraine because Washington understood that they would be quickly destroyed on the battlefield. The Abrams tanks supplied to the AFU are unsuitable for the muddy and wet conditions of eastern Ukraine, and were designed for combat in dry and hot climates. In the Middle East, the engines and carburetors of M1 Abrams tanks often clogged with sand, but the U.S. military managed. If an engine failed, they could replace it within 30 minutes, but I don't think this is possible in Ukraine, Prokhotilov remarked. Military analyst and editor-in-chief of Russia's Arsenal of the Fatherland magazine, Viktor Murakovsky, identified a significant flaw in the Abrams tanks provided to Ukraine: the removal of essential equipment. The Abrams tanks in Ukraine lack the uranium armor to protect the front turret, and the Integrated Battlefield Information Management System. Washington fears these top-secret technologies might fall into Russian hands if the tanks are captured on the battlefield. Additionally, the American tanks lack roof protection and do not have devices to disrupt suicide drones. Murakovsky believes these issues make the American tanks easy targets for the Russian military. Kherson Region Leader Vladimir Saldo noted that 30 M1 Abrams tanks supplied to the AFU had to be returned to the West for modifications to suit the Ukrainian battlefield conditions. After installing active protection systems, the AFU deployed them to the front lines. Images of the destroyed M1 Abrams near Avdiivka reveal that these vehicles lack the necessary protective equipment to operate in an environment dense with advanced and dangerous anti-tank weapons. Ukraine, a too harsh battlefield for tanks. The national interest admitted that in Ukraine, American, British, and German tanks do not have the invincibility claimed in advertisements. In reality, any combat vehicle appearing on the Ukrainian front lines quickly and anti-tank missiles. Like the Leopard 2 and Challenger 2 tanks, the M1 Abrams faced overwhelming Russian firepower upon arrival. The Russian military's minefields, artillery, anti-tank missiles, and attack helicopters are too powerful, while the AFU lacks sufficient strength to suppress and protect their ground forces. RIA Novosti reported that some Ukrainian prisoners expressed unease about operating Western combat vehicles because they are priority targets for Russian soldiers. Once Western-supplied tanks are spotted, Russian artillery immediately focuses on destroying them. This also applies to UAV operators hunting Ukrainian combat vehicles. The widespread use of suicide drones on the battlefield is another critical factor. Numerous images show Russian and Ukrainian suicide drones attacking and destroying armored vehicles, including the most modern and heavily armored MBTs.
What do you think about this issue? Please leave your comments below. If you enjoy content like this, please hit the subscribe button to support the channel and help it grow. Wishing you a wonderful life. Goodbye and see you next time.